Hello there and welcome to this vlog of February 2022, and this will be the first in a series of vlogs or talks on the weirder and more wonderful aspects of the BattleTech galaxy. Kind of there is an underlying conspiratorial thing going on in BattleTech, which if you are a fan of BattleTech you will know when you see it. Like the writers throw little snippets in there to kind of fish for attention, so to speak, and to generate a little bit of buzz and interest in as I said, that kind of conspiratorial aspect, which I think as human beings we all are fascinated by, like secrets and potential conspiracies and things like that. BattleTech is no different, and the writers very wisely put some little crumbs of conspiracy theories in there. In terms of the format for this, I've definitely got two planned out. So the first one today, which will be on Interstellar Expeditions, which is kind of a grounded subject because they are just like an entity or an organization, very open and out there for everyone to see. Within BattleTech, but it's kind of what they do and what they are trying to kind of achieve, which is more interesting. Then, though, there are kind of the more esoteric aspects of doing a little series of talks. So subjects from that range from New Age religions to real horrifying conspiracy theories that exist within this universe. So I really I'll start grounded with something like Interstellar Expeditions, and we'll kind of grow from there. And I don't know how long or how many episodes this will take. It's going to be between about 2 and 5, I would imagine. So we'll start off with something that's relatively straightforward and easy to pinpoint, and we'll spiral out from there. All good, wacky, cranky conspiracy theories, start with a crumb of truth and then you just go completely bananas. Now, before I kind of talk about Interstellar Expeditions, though, what I really need to discuss, or the elephant in the room, so to speak, if I'm going to do a series like this, is Comstar. Comstar are almost like the alpha and omega of BattleTech. They are a big driving narrative force. I think sometimes the writers overuse them. I think sometimes the community kind of overdo their importance as well. But I can't, before I get into anything regarding the specifics of the topics that I want to discuss, I really am going to have to discuss Comstar just a little bit to kind of set some grounding, because like I said, it's very difficult to kind of do anything on this without discussing Comstar, because they are so omnipresent in BattleTech, and they are the glue that kind of holds everything together. They were formed in the aftermath of the American Civil War, and are really major players right throughout then. Certainly the time that I'm kind of engaged with in BattleTech, which is from the end of the Succession Wars to the FedCom Civil War, and to a point where they betray the inner sphere by kind of semi-siding with the clans during the clan invasion. It's complicated. And then they kind of completely turn on the clans and they instigate the Battle of Tukiid, and then they save the inner sphere. But one might argue that they saved something that they initially completely betrayed. So they're a very complex organisation. They're a very almost like a pseudo-religious cult or sect. Where they are interesting though is that they are the worst nightmare of any merger and monopolies commission in real world, in that they control all the finance and all the communications. I can only equate this to, imagine if you have a company now, one of the huge corporates. Generally, when we talk about that now, we talk about either banking or tech. So let's take something like Google, which have basically the power of information at their hands. They can basically decide what people see, because, and this was a big I would say it wasn't a scandal. It's just something that kind of came about through like how tech companies do their thing when they were basically channeling information that they thought you would want to see given your like history online. And that has led, in my opinion, to like a really dangerous place where human beings can get, where they get like corralled into a certain like thought pattern because the only things that they see are from people who they think or tend to agree with. Whereas if you really want to like, you know, understand a topic, you need to know it from every side, right? So you might go into a discussion or a debate thinking one thing, and you should be open to change, you know, by hearing other people's opinions, as long as they articulate them correctly and give like evidence for what they are suggesting. It's completely fine to change your opinion. And if a company are basically saying, well, you will never see the other side of the argument, we are just going to kind of spoon feed you what we think you want to hear, that leads to very, very dangerous like places when it comes to like opinions, because you will entrench yourself in a certain mindset or dogma, and it means that you can't really grow as a human being as far as like information that's being presented to you. And given how much now people like rely on the digital world, and you know, I'm guessing we all do this. I mean, if you're watching me on YouTube, presumably you are digitally savvy. So where do you read your news, for instance? You know, do you have only a certain select group of websites that you use? Do you use like a Google search engine to find things? Is that then like spoon feeding things to you based on, you know, your search browser history, things like that? And that to me is like, that is power that Google probably never wanted. In fact, I know they never wanted that. They are basically there as a search engine corporate. Like, I mean, yes, they do mine data and mine information, but I don't think someone at Google was thinking, oh, what we can do here is create like a dichotomy of thought pros. Like, it just, why would anyone wanted to have done that? It's basically just the offshoot of like algorithms and processes and trying to kind of market things to people, because this is all about advertising and marketing. Because if you kind of look at it, like if you search for like a lawnmower on Amazon, and then suddenly, you know, you've gone to other websites and you see that like lawnmower adverts are appearing, that's because like the algorithms know that you're looking for a lawnmower, and that's then them trying to kind of, you know, get in there through cookies and everything else that, you know, like digital like marketing uses to get you to buy their products. And the kind of offshoot of that is what I was talking about previously, which is that like data boxing in, which is pretty dangerous in my opinion. So anyway, I've completely gone on a tangent there. But imagine you've got a company with that kind of power, and then let's say we just gave Google tomorrow the finances of the world to manage. The silence there should speak volumes, because it sends shivers down my spine for sure, and it probably should do you as well. This, as of yet, hasn't happened. Like tech has, or big tech companies, I think would be really, really hesitant to do that, because they know that if they crossed like governments, especially, they'd start getting a lot of like, you know, pushback. It happened. It is happening at the moment with like blockchain and cryptocurrency, because nation states or governments or regulators, whatever else you want to call them, are very intimidated by this, because it's something it's not backed up by anything, but in some circumstances it's more powerful than an actual nation's currency, which is backed up by things like infrastructure and gold and resources and labor power and, you know, like the actual tangible things that you can point to. Whereas cryptocurrency is just like this weird supply and demand thing going on in terms of blockchain, which is, I mean, I'm not going to go into that, it's really weird and complex, but that is a digital set like currency. And who's to say that in like 50 years cryptocurrency isn't like a completely legitimate currency like something like the dollar is? We'll have to wait and see whether it can survive that, whether it is just a fad. I mean, the rate it's going, I think it certainly is more than a fad, but you know, these things can change pretty quickly, especially if governments, you know, take umbrage to what they are doing. But let's just say, for instance, if Google controlled all the information and kind of communication, because they own this that you are watching me on, right? So they're everywhere in terms of tech. Imagine they actually controlled the money supply as well. And coming off the tangent now, that is Comstar. So you have got an organisation that controls pretty much the fundamentals of civilization, which is very, very dangerous. Like, Comstar in BattleTech are more powerful than anyone else. Like, if they don't like you, they will just cut you off to the unit, to the galaxy, and there is not much you can do about it. So it's a very, very dangerous position to have put this organisation in. Comstar, though, I think do get over-egged when it comes to BattleTech. Like, everyone talks about them. They have their own like military wing, obviously, in regards to the Comm Guards, who are pretty cool. I mean, they do have really, really good mechs. To the Comms Guard, I like them. I've got like Comm Guard forces, but like, they're not the be-all and end-all of what's going on in like the BattleTech galaxy. There are far more like shady organisations and players, which I am going to deal with as we go through this. But I think it was just important to kind of set down what Comstar are as like the ultimate in the conspiratorial like mindset within this particular arena. And they are like, they mix everything that I'm going to talk about. They are involved in. They do look for lost tech, either to destroy it or capture it. They do kind of operate on like a pseudo-religious mystic thing, which is other areas I'm going to delve in during this like series of talks. Anyway, let's get on to today's topic real now. So this is Interstellar Expeditions. And Interstellar Expeditions, they've always been like my favourite organisation in BattleTech, because firstly, I am a trained anthropologist. So that's kind of what for you Americans out there, that's what I majored in. That's what I did my degree and my master's in. I'm one of the few anthropologists, though, that I was an anthropologist. Like, that was my thing when I was like in my 20s. And eventually I got sick of being paid very badly, and for want of a better term, went commercial, went into law firms. And never looked back really, because anthropologists don't get paid very well. But it's a subject that's like very close to my heart, and I know, as you probably expect, quite a bit about. And Interstellar Expeditions are very much like a mixture of anthropologists and archaeologists and like hobby enthusiasts. In a sense, they're like a heady mixture between like Indiana Jones, both the kind of the symbols that Indiana Jones represents, like the stuffy university professor pointing at blackboards, and like then the whip touting, like adventurer going to find all manner of like amazing historical artifacts, things like that. So they are, of course, my favourite, organisation within BattleTech. They are like, until recently, I didn't really hear that much about them until they really got like a new birth in MechWarrior 5. However, and before I discuss Interstellar Expeditions within MechWarrior 5, I need to kind of clarify something. That MechWarrior 5 to me is completely un-BattleTech-like, and that needs some like explanation and a little bit of like fleshing out. MechWarrior 5 to me is a game created by people who don't really understand the setting. Like, they have the map, right? Like, if you go over, I mean, I actually use that like interactive map like quite regularly. Like, I'll go on there and be like, where's that planet again? There is a mod you can get which actually, like, it's like a quality of life mod where you can have, there's like a search engine to find systems. So like, I can type in like any system in there and it will like flag it up, and I do that. It's way easier to use that than it is an actual like BattleTech map like this one, which I've got, which I won't unravel it, but that's kind of the, like all the inner sphere like powers and places, and it's huge. I mean, BattleTech is a massive, massive galaxy, And trying to find somewhere on that can be really quite difficult as it's so big. Whereas obviously the map on MechWarrior 5 is super useful with that search function. So they had that, and they had kind of the understanding in regards to like the mechs and everything else. But what they didn't have was an understanding of the kind of heart and soul of BattleTech for me. Everything in it looks way too like shiny and new, to a point where it almost offends me. I find I struggle to play that game. Actually, it looks like the mechs on it look like they've just come out of a factory, and it does start in 3015, which is like right at the back end of the Succession Wars. So it's kind of like as dark as things get, really, for the Inner Sphere. Like, technology is completely decimated. It's only like in the late 3020s and then into what we kind of know as the Renaissance in BattleTech, where things start to improve, like technologically. But in 3015, everything is literally like held together with tape and string. And it never reflects that to me. It always looks far too shiny and clean, and it ruins the whole kind of feel of the game. I also don't like the mech designs. Not all, some of them are good, but some of them just look like way too like Gundam-y for me. I don't even like saying that word. Horrible, like interpretation of mechs. Basically, it's like a cartoon style of mechs, which I just despise. Like, BattleTech is so like real world and gritty, and there's so many like there's lots of shades of grey. It's very political. It's a very like adult like setting, as opposed to it being like a Saturday morning cartoon. And I think that like MechWarrior 5 got that completely wrong in terms of like the direction they took. And although kudos to them, they do use Interstellar Expeditions. They are one of like the main driving like narrative like entities in that entire game. But what I think why I really wanted to do like, I'll keep calling them IE from here on out. Why I wanted to do IE first is because they don't get like MechWarrior 5. It's really quite a like a superficial game. Like, the campaign is just so boring. But although they have improved it a lot, granted, especially like the new DLC that came out, I think it makes it actually quite like a decent game. But like, the core campaign is just not good. It's very, very cliched. Like, as soon as you do a whole like father and son tale, you just lose me. Like, it's so cliched and so boring and so tired. Yeah, so not a fan. But saying that, it's not my kind of game. I'm not really a shooty game player. I much prefer like strategy, like tactical games. So that's got to hold my hands up and say that if I'm critiquing it. But in terms of how like IE are represented, there's one mission where they get it okay. Like, you actually have to like defend a dig site, and that's very much what IE do. They are for want of a better term, they're a commercial organisation, but they're also like set up by like hobby enthusiasts. What do I mean by that? Well, in a sense, Interstellar Expeditions are akin to something like what we have in Britain called the Royal Society. The Royal Society is kind of like a loose amalgamation of like scientists and social scientists who, act as like either like a thought leadership team or like a think tank or like a non-governmental body, and they'll kind of draw in like expertise from like legitimate sources, and then even from people who are doing it but are very respected as like hobbyists. So if you're looking at something like, I don't know, like cartography or something like that, where a lot of people who are like discovering like new planets and asteroids will just be like Joe Blogs with with some kind of device to do that, which they've privately funded, whether it's like a telescope or something more advanced or whatever else. Like they've got like obviously as well in stuff like that, there's a lot of math involved in it. So there are people, those like, for want of a better term, hobby heroes across the world who are advancing science. But generally speaking, it's like people who are accredited in their field, and IE kind of operate within that sphere, although it's very important to say they are a commercial entity. That doesn't surprise me at all, because BattleTech is all about the money. It's all about the C-bills. So usually, like either like a major or minor power, or could be like a local businessman or something like that might, or someone of that ilk, like someone important within their like sphere of influence might employ IE to go and like look into a scientific like aspect of lost tech, or they might like send them to a place where they thought there was some kind of like archaeological find that they could go and dig out. And it's a relatively small organisation. I mean, the figures that I've got for it, and this is kind of, I think, all based in the 50s, so like post-clan invasion, it comes in at about like 40,000 employees. Employees loosely, like a lot of those will be like subcontracted, and a lot of it will be like hobby enthusiasts, like I say, or, if you think of it like BattleTech is a very real, like grounded universe, so people who are coming out of like universities with like archaeology degrees will probably join like a branch of IE and get their kind of on-field experience doing that, just like living for room and board and traveling the universe, like digging things up, where they then get the experience to maybe build their own reputation to write books, or to like get private funding to do their own digs, and then they might strike it lucky and come across like an old Star League cache of weaponry or something like that, and basically turn into millionaires overnight. So it is a commercial entity. Ultimately, though, in terms of their history, and it's an amalgamation of like several bodies over time. So there were two organisations originally. That's the Millennium Foundation and the Federation of Starlookers. They amalgamated together in 2889 to create something called the Star Group. The Star Group, which was kind of eventually became a bit of like a failed entity, although their kind of, their like mission agenda, which I'll get on to in a second, is quite a difficult one. But as they were failing, they actually merged with a group called the Mutual Exploration Network. And that was in 2974, and that was to actually form Interstellar Expeditions. So that's kind of, coming towards the end of the Third Succession War. And as I say, it is like scientists, archaeologists, anthropologists, and super like interesting within the BattleTech universe, because there is so much like, it's based over a 700-800 year history of people like, expanding out into the galaxy. And therefore, a lot has happened that hasn't been documented. So you might look for like a Star League archaeological dig and find like an old castle full of mechs, or you might find like an old like drop ship or something like that that's just full of amazing equipment. Or more interestingly, there might be data on there pointing to, some kind of SLDF expedition that nobody knows about. So this is a huge like the possibilities for something like IE in terms of like narratives are just absolutely endless. They are like the quintessential Indiana Jones types, like hunting things down and trying to kind of make sense of a history that's like long forgotten and like very, very revered. And in a sense, I think that's why to me they are the most interesting. If you kind of look at it like Comstar are very much like the commercial, financial communications, which is obviously super important, actually the most important thing, but IE are kind of the heart of like that exploration of what's going on in BattleTech. And I certainly like, if I'm kind of creating my own like narratives around like my own mercenary unit, IE crop up quite often, because they are by far like the most like interesting like narrative drivers, as opposed to like Comstar, who are constantly wanting to kind of destroy old technology or basically get it under their own umbrella. IE are actually trying to discover it, which obviously will create conflict between both organisations. In terms of their main aims, and this is where they are most interesting, and I don't know how much I'm going to touch on this today. This probably like, needs its own episode within its own right, because it's a very large topic, and one of the like the quintessential like BattleTech conspiracy theories. They were actually created, or like one of their like real kind of like de facto mission statements, whatever you want to say, was to actually find the Minnesota tribe. The Minnesota tribe, again, I don't know how much detail to go into here, because I think that if I'm going to talk about shady, weird things in BattleTech, they are eventually going to come up, but they really do kind of deserve their own like episode at some point. Whether it's going to be in this series, I don't know. But all I'll say at this point is that it's been confirmed outside of the universe, right? So that's like by one of us, like one of the writers for BattleTech at one time has confirmed that the Minnesota tribe were the remnants of Clan Wolverine who escaped the annihilation. Again, I think they deserve their own kind of, series of talks in their own right, because that is a huge topic, but it has been confirmed. So a conspiracy theory, it really isn't. However, what's really interesting about the Minnesota tribe is because they did eventually go back to the inner sphere. Like we have to take that on like gratis now that they are confirmed that when the Clan Wolverine were destroyed, they basically came back to the inner sphere via the Draconis Combine, got involved in some shenanigans, kind of travelled around the inner sphere, doing all kinds of weird and wonderful things that nobody can really understand, and then they just disappeared. And this was an incredibly powerful group, like the Minnesota tribe, like was one of the like founding clans that survived annihilation, but then went back to the inner sphere. What exactly were they doing? That's the conspiracy theory, and that's what IE were really trying to trace down. Now, if you're looking at the IE during like the 3020s, they have no idea what the clans are. Like they don't know. They only know what like the general populace of like the BattleTech galaxy know, and that's that the SLDF disappeared. And then a few years later, this like amazing power came back, known as the Minnesota tribe, and they're trying to kind of loosely connect what they were doing, why they were doing it. Is it the SLDF? There's loads of like amazing conspiracy theories. My favorite conspiracy theory is that they'd, which again, I think this is kind of all pre-clan invasion, but it's still really fascinating. That they were basically in charge of trying to kind of head off a potential alien invasion of humanity, which is not true. I mean, I think as far as conspiracy theory goes, that's kind of like on your David Icke level of craziness. But I just love that like they tease that aspect that, well, there might be aliens in this galaxy. They'll never do it in BattleTech, and nor should they. This is a human like drama. We don't need aliens. We've got the Capellans. We don't need aliens. So like, you can like go as far down that rabbit hole as you want, and it's very, very interesting to do. It obviously lost some of its mystique when the clans did invade. And this happens quite a lot with the conspiracy theories. Like as soon as the clans invade, a lot of the conspiracy theories kind of fall off a cliff, because at that point you know what happens with the SLDF. But just in terms of like having or thinking about like an archaeological anthropology organization chasing down this like lost tribe of like with this amazing technology, just really kind of floats my boat, so to speak. Like I love that idea, and if like my inner like anthropologist, if I was in that BattleTech universe, I would be all over that. Like I'd just be reading every single thing that I could get my hands on. I'd probably join IE and just go and chase them down, because that would be, it's just so incredible when you think about it that like the SLDF disappeared and they have this one like string that they might be able to point to with the Minnesota tribe. So I can well understand why everyone, all the kind of these hacks and like weirdos and hobby enthusiasts really kind of got into that and formed this what eventually became IE. They also, one of their other things, and I'm not going to touch on this today. Again, this probably deserves its own video as well, and that's something that's known as the disappearance of Clinton's cutthroats. Again, potentially tied with the Minnesota tribe at some level. Like nobody knows. It's one of those like conspiracy theories within the BattleTech universe. I won't touch on that today because that's probably one too many conspiracy theories for the video, and I'll think about doing them separately at some point. But yeah, like I would say that like for me, what IE is the real like beating heart of BattleTech, and why it is so interesting as like an IP in general. Because ultimately, like the galaxy that they've created, which has got so much in it in terms of like the geopolitics. So you've got like the big powers, the minor powers. Eventually, you get the clans. But those little stories, those like stories that resonate over generations and generations, I personally just find like super fascinating. And I think the key to unlocking that really is IE. Whereas Comstar are like the belligerents or the gatekeepers of that knowledge. IE are the ones trying to kind of break that down and like find out what happened to the SLDF. And if you are playing like campaigns in excuse me, in like 3025, I can't think of a better like organization to understand and read about and tie that into your narrative play. I personally don't do roleplay games. Like it's not for me. I'm kind of much more on the tabletop for strategy and tactics. But I think if I was going to ever do roleplay, I would absolutely run like the Interstellar Expedition roleplay campaign, because you could really generate some like amazing like subterfuge and interest and conspiracy theories and everything else going on around like, you know, lost archaeological sites that have got like, maybe they've been buried for like 400 years, but if you get into that and find access to it, you get like amazing technology or mechs or some information that points you to another thing. And obviously it's your journey, so like, you know, I think if I was going to like write a book, like a standalone book in BattleTech, it would be like following like archaeologists with Interstellar Expeditions, and them getting very close to discovering the clans. Like, so it's like 3017 or something like that, and they're completely off the grid. And this happens a lot in BattleTech because like the inner sphere is only like a fraction of what like humanity has actually settled. That's kind of where the geopolitics exists. But on the periphery, and it's not. I'm not just talking about the periphery powers. I'm not talking about like the Taurians or the Magistracy of Canopus or anything like that. I'm talking like go further than that. You'll find worlds that were settled like 400 years ago that have been like deserted, you know, for maybe like hundreds of years, and are now just like have completely been like ravished by time, but might be holding like amazing secrets. And you get that a lot with like, i.e. they'll end up like right at the back end of nowhere, and they'll find like a clue there that's like they might find something that's like clan technology or something that the SLDF stumbled upon during the Exodus, and it leads them down this like rabbit hole of information and conspiracy. And I just love that kind of that aspect to it. And BattleTech is so big and so sprawling that there are so many opportunities to do like very, very fun things with that. So that's kind of IE in a nutshell anyway. And they're kind of, in a sense, the organisation that I can talk least about, even though they're my favourite. They're not very well fleshed out. I think there should be much more like narrative fluff about them. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see like Indiana Jones-esque in the BattleTech universe. That there might be books that exist that I've just not read. On that, I mean, there are hundreds of BattleTech books, and I've only read like what I'd equate as like a handful of them. So they may exist, you know, might be fleshed out somewhere. I'm kind of doubting that though, because when I was researching this, it looks to me like a lot of the data are in like the source books and like the roleplay books and stuff like that. So I don't know how much of that is, you know, taken from like what authors have written in terms of narratives, or it's just like people fleshing out the universe with this like mysterious, well, say, you're not a mysterious organisation. They just, you know, study the like the mysterious things of the BattleTech universe. Right. Well, I think I'll end it there, because this was always going to be a quick one. It's kind of going to be a like a starter for, you know, for this like series of talks. And I really did need to do them first. I needed to discuss a little bit about Comstar and a little bit about Interstellar Expeditions, just because that kind of sets the ground for the more like spurious, weird, and ridiculous things that I'll be discussing over the next few weeks. So I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed researching that, and I certainly enjoyed researching the next episode that I'm going to do, which is one that's really close to my heart as an anthropologist. I won't tell you what that is though. I will keep that a surprise until next week. So I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.